Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? So lucky to have Sean Salisbury with us. When it comes to talking quarterback play, just offense in general or football in general, I don't know that there's anybody better. We get him on Tuesdays, and it just so happened that Sean was scheduled to be on the show like 20 minutes after the Derek Carr news broke. If you're just jumping in your car, haven't heard, Derek Carr likely to miss at least a couple of games with an oblique injury, and could be Spencer Rattler in line to start. That's from Mike Garafolo over at the NFL Network. Sean, the Saints' offensive line has been a huge sticking point because of the injuries. They could be in line to start their fourth center in as many games this coming weekend against Tampa. Does the fact that they've had this shuffle of the offensive line impact the decision at all of who might start? Haener, who's got a little, not a bunch of experience, but at least a little more than Rattler?
It does. Now, whether that'll be the deciding factor, Matty, we'll see what Dennis Allen does and how Clint deals with that on the offensive side. It does, because I know it sounds elementary, but in training quarterbacks, if you can't, between the quarterback and center, if you can't protect them inside and you can't get the ball and get it rolling, and you're concerned about that going in, it becomes a problem. That's just kind of got to be like riding to work in the morning. You don't ever, when you've been to work 400 straight days in a row, you don't ever think about the directions. You just go to work. Not every you say, yeah, same right. It's the same thing with center. When you've got a veteran in there, or you're with your guy, it's just, you just know it's going to get handled, not only with the line calls, which when you're dealing with a young quarterback, a lot of time the next guy to make those calls is your center. They're usually, smart and veteran, and they know where to direct traffic to help the young guy out when he's calling Mike Rice and he wants to direct protection. A lot of times in young quarterbacks, the team will put it up to the center to get him in the right play. They just will. So, and when you're on your fourth, now you're talking about that guy's reeling too, not just the young quarterback. And then not only getting things handled with line calls, but also getting the snap proper, whether it's under center in the gun, and then you got to block somebody. Now, that front seven was supposed to be strong, been banged up a little bit on Tampa Bay, and they're not playing the normal type of Todd Bowles defense, which is pressure, show one thing, do another. But they know, trust me, if anything, good coordinators and good coaches will find the weakness. And I can tell you this from a quarterback standpoint, man, I think we opened the season talking about the center position, how important it is for a quarterback, and now we're 4 deep, possibly, that the interior of a quarterback. So when you think that, most of us like to climb the pocket. We don't like anybody on our legs. So your next thought is, if that's going to be the case, then I better have a guy who can take something, make chicken salad out of chicken crap. You know what I mean, as a quarterback. So knowing that can be, and if you're Todd Bowles in that defense, of course you're going to try to exploit their offensive line weakness, which goes back to my original comment about creating confusion. So yes, and it also goes back, you made the point of the question of, in those meeting rooms, who do they feel can handle duress? Because the game is going to be, I know it's at home, but the game is going to have a lot of times of moments where they're going to embarrass you with their defense. They're going, it happens every week, where whether it's an embarrassment or 3 and out 2 or 3 times, then what happens to the young quarterback? You start to press. And then if you're Kubiak, or you're starting to play too conservative, you can't go into this game. This is what I do know. You can't go into this game saying, man, we got to throw it 10 times and we're going to run it and we're going to live with it. You still got to treat your backup. He gets paid for a reason. You got to treat it whatever it is to go out there and still deliver the ball and understand, when there's a single high safety, we can pound the outside lanes. You're not going to get too, overload them with stuff, but it goes back to your basics that you should have been learning in high school. And I know it's a different game than when some of us played, but you still got to know which side we're opposite rotation and where you're going with your reads to have a chance to be successful. So this week in practice, I would imagine, in truth, Matty, you don't need a lot of plays. You just need to make it look like you got 10, 12 passes and 5 runs, but dress them up to where it looks like you got 40 of them. But how can the young guy handle it? So, yes, the center's important, and, yes, understanding the experience of who's going to handle the bad plays, like I said, better. Because they will come. They do for every team. Bad plays will come. Who can overcome them and give you the best chance? And sometimes it's who's going to make me a play when nothing's there. We've seen Caleb Williams have to do it in Chicago with his line, and it happens in a lot of cities. And so who's prepared to do that? But I wouldn't go in playing tentative ball. You got to go in. You got to protect the quarterback, but you still got to attack and give him a chance to get into a rhythm, get him some early completion. So experience and who they think can handle the adversity will be a a big choice in this, but sometimes you also say, who's going to get me out of trouble better? And we'll see who they believe in and legs-wise can get them out, because they will come with some interior pressure. They'll try to create some problems for line calls, especially if you're on your third or fourth center.
I'm glad you mentioned Todd Bowles. So it is the Saints and the Bucs. There's great familiarity, right? I mean, it's a division opponent, but this is a Tampa defense, Sean. I mean, I had the stats here a second ago, but they're 30th in total defense, 28th in pass, 16th in rush, 19th in scoring. They haven't been great defensively. What might you expect from Tampa's defense against whomever might be playing quarterback for the Saints on Sunday?
Yeah, Matt, when we went into the season, you know there's Mike Evans. You know what you get with him. I mean, the most underrated player of all time at his position. And you know the offense. And going into the season, I don't know how I'm pretty sure you probably felt the same way. We always look at Tampa's defense. We thought that was going to be one of their strengths, right? And that has not happened. I mean, look at what happened with Cousins. I mean, I know it's different, but you knew at some point in time they were going to erupt offensively. I mean, they'll throw it around a lot now, and they'll take care of their business. I mean, they can get a lot of stuff done in the passing game against Tampa. So, and their defense has not been the strength of their team. But what happens is with this, the great equalizers happened, because if Carr was the quarterback, he has a tremendous understanding of what's going on the field. So you're not going to fool him much. So now you can come up. This is one of those, you want to get right quick, find a young quarterback. I mean, like for instance here in Houston, they're getting ready to play. Drake May's going to start. They're going up to New England. It'll be a home game. But you don't tell me D'Amico Ryan's saying pressure, create confusion for him, and go get him. Now the Texans defense is playing better football than Tampa. So what was supposed to be a strength of their team has quite frankly been a weakness for them. So that's a good thing if you're New Orleans going to say, we can run our offense. The question is, how expansive can you be? I would not expect to see defensively what veteran quarterbacks have seen. Now they'll go with their base defense. Everybody does. That's a creature of habit that coordinators always have. But you got to watch the tape, and I love the Belichick approach where each game is we look at it individually. We may have our base, but I may line up 9 guys on the line of scrimmage. If I was playing the Saints, I'm going to make the young quarterback beat me. I'm not going to let Kamara take the game over. I'm going to make the young quarterback beat me with smart decisions, force him to get the ball out quicker. And a lot of times with young quarterbacks, and I want you to keep this in mind, is if you decided, well, we're going to give all out pressure the whole time. For quarterbacks, a young quarterback, you know what it does? It takes the read out of it. When you know it's man coverage, it's a one-man route. You're saying, I believe this guy, Olave is going to win. So you don't have to go through your progressions, which impatience is a big part of being a young quarterback. They want to hurry through their reads, and not urgent, but hurry. And hurry is a bad word for quarterbacks. And so by the time they get to the second, third progression, they're all wompy-jawed. When you know they're pressuring you, it becomes a one-man read, which actually becomes easier on the quarterback to at least make the decision. Now you got to deliver and make the throw. But being multiple, I'd rather even be multiple versus young quarterbacks. Why? Because make it look like man drop into zone, little zone blitz here. Pressure, show 4 weak, and then boom, bring a strong safety blitz. Inside A-gap pressure, force him to audible or force him to run, check out of it and then drop out of it. To me, this is a perfect game if you're Tampa to get right now. If you're Clint Kubiak, you go in and let Spencer Rattler or Jay Kaner know that we're going to attack them. But I would expect, if I was the offensive staff at New Orleans, to see something different, because what Carr could get you out of mentally, young quarterbacks think a little bit too fast, which is natural. But they also can settle in, and sometimes naive can be a good thing. Because you're like, I'm not afraid of this. Nobody expects me to play well. I haven't had 10 snaps. So I'm going to go out there and let it rip. So conservative, smart is one thing, but I wouldn't get to the point where everything I do on 3rd and 7 is just handing the ball off every time. So and always running on first down. Because if it's 2nd and 7, 3rd and 8, it'll be a long day for the Saints passing game, I assure you, and for a young quarterback.
I got 2 more things. I got one more about the Saints situation. I have to at least get a thought on LSU and Ole Miss. But just the importance of this game, Sean, the Saints are 2-3. They've lost 3 in a row. It's a home game against Tampa. If they lose, they're 2-4, and they would also follow 1-2 in the division. Sean, to get to 10-7, they'd have to go 8-3 the remainder of the season. That just feels, I don't know if it's impossible, but it's certainly improbable.
Yep.
How important is it for the Saints season to find a way to win Sunday?
Monumental. And I'll say, when you say in football terms, I mean playoff terms, I mean, I know there's a lot more important things. Well, considering what Tampa's going to face with this hurricane, we know there's a lot of things, and
right.
you know, that they're going to have to deal with also travel-wise and worrying about their families and all those things. That you hope that everybody's okay. You and us in Houston, you in New Orleans, Florida, they've all been through this. It's huge, Matt, because it's not like this is a one-game injury. You may not get Carr for 3 weeks, and you're down. Then you're down 2-4 in the division and in a chase mode. Now you're like, oh goodness, what happens if this continues? And then we're 2-6, 2-7. Yes, and you're more than likely going to need to get to 10 to get in. Fortunate if you get to 9 and get in. So. It is huge. Here's the slippery slope, and there's a fine line between making sure your team understands, and you probably shouldn't have to tell them because players have a pretty good idea of the urgency and importance of, I don't care if it's 6-3, finding a way to win without letting them know that, well, if we don't, the season's over. Because you know what I'm saying with Young, it's like, dang. So, but I would preach a single game elimination in a way that's like, okay, it's single game elimination. We have to have that urgency mindset without all of a sudden, if you lose, you got to go to work the next week. You got 11 more of them. You still got whatever. You still got to play them. So you don't want to sit there and say, well, our season's over. Now we're crap canning the whole year. But there has to be a message of the urgency to know that no matter how we find a way to win, I don't care if it's an ugly win. Pretty losses don't do us any good. You have to make sure that the team knows about the urgency of, yeah, I would treat it like a single elimination wild card round playoff game, and if you lose it, say, somebody else lost, so we're still alive. That's the message, but the message has to be some way, somehow get out of this building, and you're at home, so there's an advantage there, and if they get hot early, you know, you can ride momentum as an offensive football team. I think it'll be a better game than we think, but on the other side of the ball, you still got to, even though they're a good defense, deal with an offense that has had a pretty decent start to their season in Tampa.
He is Sean Salisbury. Make sure you get him on Twitter X at Sean Unfiltered. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.